Yeah, we ready.
Lunch Money Lambert, Jeff Malott. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Yeah. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Kayak Bass Nation. Hey. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation, where we talk about fishing and competition. It's your boy Ox Pippin, aka Ox Fishing. Don't come over here tripping. Hey, hope you enjoy the show. Jeff Malott, Lunch Money Lambert, Lego. Hey, welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Kayak Bass Nation. Hey, welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to KBN Live. How you doing tonight, Ryan?
Are.
My sunburned face, tired friend. How you doing?
Exhausted, buddy. I have no gas left in the tank after this weekend.
Well, we kind of called it, or I kind of called it last week, man. After all the trash you spoke on Kentucky Lake, you gave it hell and made a run at it.
I did. Just because I hate the place doesn't mean I'm not going to try to catch fish there. But in traditional Kentucky Lake fashion, she got me again. Got me again, man. Golly.
Yeah. Well, yeah. For those that followed along, you guys saw Ryan up there towards the top of the leaderboard for 2 days, and he had a little unfortunate circumstance knock him back a little bit.
I don't know how. I don't know. I don't know how you don't catch the same fish. Like, I don't know if you're supposed to like shake your worm different so it don't bite it again the next day, or I haven't ran into that circumstance.
Yeah, you always be catching the same smallies. How does that happen to you?
I catch the same smallmouth like because they're spawning. This is just a random largemouth, like it's a huge secondary point, and I caught a couple 17s off of it, and this one just happened to be the same one twice.
He fell for the trick twice. So from now on, you're just gonna have to pedal like 500 yards down the bank, throw it up, let him go, and then come back.
I'm just gonna throw it onto the bank. I think that way I don't catch it twice. That's my only real solution.
Yeah.
The part that kind of got me a little bit is I didn't find out until until like 3:20. Well, I was on an airplane anyway, but it didn't really give you a lot of time to adjust if you have caught the same fish twice. So like, it's different if you know about it and you can make adjustments. Maybe that'll change your game plan for the day or whatever. But that's a thing that I think probably could have happened a little bit better.
What was the deal there? Were they going back reviewing people in check reins, like double checking their photos?
I guess so.
Or something?
Yeah, and we can ask Jim when he gets on here, but I'm pretty sure Jim had caught the same fish day 1 and day 2. Kyler Branham had caught the same fish day 1 and day 2. I think AJ said like 3 people in the money had caught the same fish. That's because the lake is so shitty. There's so few fish. You just keep catching the same ones every day.
Now, what's your opinion on the lake? Do you think that it after Jay was here saying it's kind of creeping back? There was a lot of people saying they saw a lot of fish, caught a lot of fish, even smaller fish. Do you think it showed signs of life, Ryan? Would you agree with
it's
that?
definitely improved. There's a lot of bait, a lot of small emerald shiners up shallow. Some people were saying they were seeing threadfin balls out on the ledges. I know some guys that caught some good fish on the ledges. Ewing got on a school and beat them up pretty good there the second day. Obviously, Abby got into a school of really good smallmouth there on the second day and made a run all the way up to the top 3 and qualified for the TOC. The lake's definitely on the upswing, but she's still tough. I mean, if you look at the limits, even on day 1. It was 80 inches was the top 10, and then after that, it just plummeted.
Yeah, they were all stacked up.
It was straight down after that.
Yeah,
it's tough, but I mean, it's getting there. It's moving in the right direction.
I felt like I hadn't been there in a few years, but I feel like the change in forage, like you said, those emerald shiners and some other stuff, kind of position the fish different. Like I saw some people, like you said, some people caught them off ledges. Brandon Prince, one of the hammers from over this way, finished 7th. He caught them on a ledge day 1. But I was like I caught a smallmouth on a buzzbait in like a foot of water in bank grass, eating those emerald shiners, So
that big one I caught pre-fishing, big smallmouth I caught pre-fishing was in maybe 6 or 8 inches of water, just right up on the bank, and it was slack water in the back of a pocket, like 5 points back into a creek. It made no sense at all. So I think they're just, they have to just move to wherever that little bait they can find is in there.
Yeah. Well, as you guys saw, we're having the champ on tonight. We were going to have the champ and the runner-up, the father-son dynamic duo of Jim and Jaxton Orr. Jaxton has gotten caught up where he can't join us, but we do have Jim. He's going to join us here in just a little while. So it's going to be a fun show regardless. How cool was that to see the father-son up there? Tearjerker, emotional.
That's awesome, right? Man. I love Jim and Jaxton, and that's great. Seeing them both be successful, but to finish 1 and 2 in a big Hobie event is excellent. I mean, it reminds me of Ewing and Nolan. It's it's cool when you got the kind of the family dynamic and the competition going on at the same time. It's awesome to see both be successful.
Yeah, very cool. I had a good time. I got on a little fun bite on Saturday and was sitting in pretty good position myself. Not great, but not totally out of it. I had like 72 3/4 on day 1. But unfortunately, I had a mechanical failure, not my boat, but my body. And had to bow out after day 1 and came on home. So I'm afraid I'm going to have to shut down tournaments for a few months and try to get right again. So, but it was still fun. Catching them in the rain on a buzzbait is always fun. So.
I think that, and Jim can talk about this a little bit when he gets on here too. I think the weather affected a lot of people's bites. That, post-frontal bluebird skies on day 2 seem to make that bite a whole lot tougher than, in the wind, the bait's blowing around, the fish are active. It's usually a little bit easier to catch them in those conditions than the old bluebird skies.
Yeah. Some people saying it was tough on Sunday for sure. We always like to talk about our sponsors before we get our guest on, and I'll go ahead and just talk about the rain on Saturday. It was my first time to try out the Gill gear, Ryan, and the Meridian, straight fire. First time in years I haven't had any water on me after fishing in the rain for a while. So 100% recommend.
Old fella works. I got mine on about 6 o'clock when I launched on Saturday. And it was clutch keeping me dry there.
Yeah, it worked, and it even is easy to get off if you have to hit the bank for an emergency situation. So good stuff.
You have the Meridian, I have the Apex, and the Apex zips all the way down one side, which is great, especially for kayak fishing, because you're still sitting down and you can easily get out of those bibs. Once the rain does stop, you just unzip the whole right leg, and then you're basically just worrying about getting your left foot out.
Yeah, where I was fishing, man. Sometimes you get in a little trouble if you haven't used the facilities before you start fishing for the day, and you have to kind of make a decision at some point. And I turned this corner, in like an oasis in the desert, there was one porta potty sitting there on the bank, and by God, I was able to bank it and make it there. So
congratulations!
God. Thanks for the porta potty, whoever placed it in that location. So there we go. But yeah, let's talk about other sponsors real quick, Ryan. Of course, Dugout Bait and Tackle presents the whole show. Appreciate them. Pro Guide Lithium, running those Pro Guides hard in pre-fishing, I'm sure. And then, of course, they were powering them electronics on Saturday and Sunday. Did you use any scoping for any of your fish, or were you fishing old school?
My scope's on the Fritz, man.
It's on the Fritz still?
Yeah. I didn't. I can't say that I caught a fish that I saw on the graph. I was fishing a lot of like chunk rock stuff. When I see those, like the chunk rock and then, a little boulder mixed in every now and then, I just drag on Ned. I drug on Ned for 4 days up there, and that was pretty much the ticket. So I don't really have to look at them in the eyeballs to feel comfortable trying to catch them.
I got you. Bangtail Whiskey, our newest sponsor on the show. We appreciate them. Doing the Revo giveaway tonight. Like I said, y'all, throw this on the screen here real quick. You guys know how we do the giveaways. Like and share on Facebook. Like and comment on YouTube. You got to like the video and then comment on YouTube. So Revo giveaway. We've been getting rave reviews on everybody that's gotten a pair so far. Then, of course, we want to thank Z-Man, Seaguar, and Gill for the support of the show as well. We did the Seaguar giveaway last week.
F This Lake shirts are in. They have arrived. I will be shipping them out to those that pre-ordered this week. I did order some extras. They will be put up on the web probably tomorrow. And I also have the hats that Jeff and I are wearing. They will also be on the website to order tomorrow.
There we go. Oh, and I wanted to mention before we got Jim on, the talk leading up to Kentucky Lake was people talking about that lake in Iowa. I can't pronounce it. Okeechobee.
Yeah.
Okeechobee of the North. Is that what it's called?
Okoboji.
It showed out. They had the All-American over there, and they put up 190, a bunch of big smallmouth. So respect. You backed up what you guys were saying over there. So well done.
You put up what you shut up.
Put up what you shut up. Showed up what you put up. I don't know what I was going to say. But yeah, they showed out. I don't know how big a lake that is. I don't know if it could ever host a larger size field. Someone have to let us know, educate me on that. But
what is Billy? What are you? Are you? You on the wrong internet? What are you talking about? You fool! Turn your computer off. Damn. Anyway.
I think he's talking about your restaurant post from the.
I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Lord, son. Anyway, let's get Jim on here. I've had enough of this.
Let's pivot to Jim. Jim, the champ.
What's going on?
Jeez Louise.
Wow.
I hope you didn't see that, Jim.
These guys. Jim saw it. Jim was at the restaurant. He saw.
Oh, that's right. He was photobombing the whole deal.
We took the picture. Yeah.
Yeah, I was.
Gosh.
Yeah, that was a precursor to him winning the whole thing.
Yeah, was that any kind of motivation for you to show out there, this weekend?
What's that, Ralph?
Well, yes.
Ralph's.
Yes, was Ralph's any kind of motivation?
Not really. Not really.
So you and Jaxton, were y'all fishing the same area? This is exactly what Jeff asked. Were y'all fishing the same area?
Ironically,
did y'all launch together or?
Ironically, here in the last couple of years, I mean, when this all started out, I was basically Jackson's chauffeur.
Yeah.
And I'd run around with the camera and chase him. Then I started carrying fishing poles, and I'm like, oh shit, I hooked a couple. So long and short of it is, no, on this one, Jackson, we were about as far apart as we could be. We're about 50 miles apart.
Really? That makes it even a cooler story.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, we're about 50 miles apart, which I wasn't happy about finding fish where I did because it was about an hour and 10-minute drive. Jackson had about a 7-minute drive from where we were staying.
Really?
Yeah.
You figured it'd be the opposite. You being the dad, you do the more reasonable drive, and then, but no.
Yeah, but I mean, he found what he found, and I found what I found.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so we're at opposite ends of the lake. He was in Kentucky at the north end. I was in Tennessee at the south end.
Yeah. Steve Fields said half a tank of fuel apart on the media boat. So you made Steve work, didn't you?
Actually, I mean, with the wind, Steve wasn't even able to get down
That's
to
true.
me.
Yeah. It got pretty salty out there.
Yeah, it did get salty.
Well, before we get into day one and day two and what you found in practice and all the real fishing talk, tell us what it means not to only win a tournament, but to win like this with you winning, your son right there behind you. What did that feel like? What's that mean to you?
I'm still feeling it, to be honest with you. We were standing up on stage, and we're a little bit nervous. There was another gentleman that was up there, and weren't sure, what he could have done after the leaderboard went off. But after they called his name, we knew, and that's where, I mean, I was doing everything I could to hold it back, and it wasn't about. I brought my onion just in case. For me, it wasn't about finishing first. For me, it was about being the last two standing there. And that was special. This is something I'll remember for the rest of my life.
Yeah. I wish we had Jax on here because I'm sure he would say the same thing. So cool to
Yeah,
see
no, I
you.
mean, we talked half the way home. I mean, to talk, but also to keep each other awake. Um, but yeah, I mean, and I can't tell you how many times he said, he's like, Dad, this is surreal. He's like, I can't believe this happened. And and I know, there's some folks that were blowing him a little bit of smack just because, Dad got the first place trophy, and you know, uh, he's got a second and a third, but no first yet, which just motivates him even more. But you know, and we can get into this later, but on that second day, I hardly ever look at the leaderboard. But I spent more time than I think I've ever spent looking at the leaderboard as I watch him climb from 76 inches to 78 inches to 80 inches, and I and as soon as that we set our alarms, so we know when lines out happens, and it wasn't 10 seconds after my alarm was going off. I got a phone call from Jackson, and the first thing he asked me is, "Did you call up?" You know, because he knew he did. You know, and then we can talk about. I did catch a fish uh, on day two that I caught on day one that so I was at 180 and a half, and it took 2.5 inches off. And I just happened to be driving because where I was fishing, I didn't have reception. And I had looked down at my phone, and I had a text from AJ, said, "Call me when you can." I'm like, "Oh, crap."
I got one of those too, but sounds like
Yep.
yours is pretty similar.
Yep. So, when I got reception, I pulled over, called him, and he let me know. And, I just asked him, I said, well, I didn't ask him about places. I just asked him about position and said, hey, does that change the positions? He said he didn't think so, but he wasn't positive. So at that point, wasn't sure, but I knew I'd given it everything. So, um, but to answer your question, I mean, to be the last two standing there, I had a hard time with the microphone that night, last night. Um, Emotions were running high. I mean, and they still are, and it's Jackson's living my dream, and I'm going to do everything I can to support him and in what he does, what he wants to do. The community that supports him, you all, uh, and traveling on the road to these events. For me, I go to fish, and my goal is to catch two limits. Um, Sandy Cooper burned me this year. There's no record of me being at Sandy Cooper. That was a humbling moment for me. Um, so this is my fourth event, but only my third points event. But it's to be there with him and do these things. Um, it the community, like seeing you all at Ralph's the other night. You guys are family. And I look forward to this stuff uh, more than I probably let on to. So
It's been cool watching though, like, as Jaxton came on as like this super young phenom, in the kayak scene, and watching him grow up and mature, and he's had some issues that have kept him from being able to kayak fish a lot last year. And seeing him come back and be successful, and then you still beat him. That was that was awesome. I love that it was you two, 1 and 2. And I know you're not out there, to beat Jaxton, right? Like, I know that's not,
Yep.
As a father, especially you that has kind of nurtured him in the sport, the last thing you want to do is kind of like pull the rug out from under him. But to be able to be, neck and neck on a tough fishery, going back and forth like that and pull it off, that's pretty great. And I know I was texting you back and forth after day one, you know, close the thing out. And then I saw Francis Tran's post, who was really the only person I was worried about. When he posted that he only had 4 fish, I texted you and I was like, all right, I'll see you on KBN Monday. And Jim's like, how do you know that? And I was like, because Francis just posted that he only had 4 fish on Facebook.
Yeah, see, I didn't even have enough reception to even look at Facebook. You know, I had like 2 or 3 spots where I could go to submit fish.
So
So I mean,
let's talk about your tournament. How did you know, when you came into the lake? You've obviously fished Kentucky Lake before.
mhm.
What were you looking for? Did you fish history, or did you just go with something brand new?
No, quite honestly, no. I fished. I did fish a little bit of history, um, and I'll just be honest. I mean, I went straight to the Barkley Dam. You know, and I did. I caught a few fish, but I'm like, oh man, you know, I'm just not feeling it. And Jackson and I were talking, and he'd been down there for a couple days. Um, you know, and he was letting me know that, you know, hey, you might check this out. You know, I mean, I caught a few fish there. And so I just had, and he gave me. I only launched at 2 ramps. Um, and as we were talking through things, um, he had let on that he caught fish in a couple spots, but he was really on them in the spot that he was at. Um, so I thought, you know what? I was all the way at the north end. I'm going to drive all the way to the south end to see. You know, and I even talked to him on the way. I'm like, I hope I don't find anything down here. And yeah, and I should have sent you a picture, but I caught I caught the biggest fish that I caught all weekend on Friday in that spot. And I caught a 19 and a quarter smallmouth. And I
Oh
mean,
wow.
you know, if you guys caught smallmouth down there, I mean, it's a dance. You know, I mean, they jump 7, 8 times out of the water, and it's all you can do just to keep them in the water and get them to the net. So that's how I figured it. That's how I figured it out. And um, you know, a lot of guys were, you know, beating the banks and stuff. Well, I was sitting shallow, throwing deep, and that was the ticket for me. And one of the things that, you know, we can get into later, I guess, but um, one of the things I learned from like Jay Wallen up on St. Clair, I'll never forget this. The first time I fished St. Clair in a tournament, you know, Jay had come up afterwards. He said, "Did you see what I was doing? Did you see what I was doing?" And he was literally just tossing out a Cinco and letting the wind just blow him back, you know, and he just sit there and just hold still and just let that Cinco just drag through the grass. I'm like, I'm gonna try that with a Ned rig.
I like it,
It
Joe.
worked.
I like
It
it.
worked.
That's what I did all day for 4 days. Is that
Yeah,
exact presentation?
yeah,
We
yeah.
call it
So
counting rocks. Like that's what we call it. Is counting rocks. You want to feel every little pebble.
yep, yep. You felt every little rock. I mean, it was a hard bottom. So, and quite honestly, if I showed you my fish finder, it's black. I I caught all my fish in a 200-yard spot, and I was just back and forth and back and forth. And I gave it a break, you know, and I go and fish a couple other areas just to give it a little bit of break, and then I would come back. But all 3 of my big fish, one in practice, one on Saturday, one on Sunday, they all came from the exact same spot.
Well, let's talk about this with your practice, because we've talked about this with a lot of people that have won tournaments and fish
Hmm.
tournaments, how they practice. So you say you caught the biggest fish that you caught all weekend right there on Friday.
Yep.
How long did you sit on those fish, or did you decide, nope, they're here, I'm out of here? How did you manage that when you were practicing and decide that was your spot?
Um, Quite honestly, I mean, when I was practicing, I didn't sit on them at all. I mean, I was probably only there for 2 hours, 3 hours tops, because it was such a long drive back. Um, but you know, I was talking to Jackson. I'm like, man, I don't know what to do. You know, and I got burned at Sandy Cooper because I was stubborn. I was going to make that. I was going to make the place work. You know, and it obviously didn't turn out for me. You know, and he made the comment. He said, "I just start where you caught your big one." That's exactly what I ended up doing. You know,
Solid
and
plan. That paid off.
Yeah. So essentially, I mean, in essence, I mean, he helped me win. He helped me beat him. You know, uh, not not by giving me any kind of strategy or anything like that, but by giving me the confidence to, okay, yeah, that makes sense, and that's what I did.
That's amazing. Yeah. So after you decided on that, let's get into your day one. I mean, you ended up in second place on day one, and you're looking strong. But tell us how that day started and how it progressed for you to get up to second place on day one.
Quite honestly, I can't even remember which fish I caught when. But I was actually going way. I was planning on going about a mile and a half from the ramp, and with the drive, with the rain, I ran into Brady Stores at the ramp, and I just sat there and looked at it. I'm like, man, I'm not anxious to get on the water because at least my radar was showing that the rain was going to let up in 20, 30 minutes. And I ended up just hanging out in my truck for a little bit. Got on the water right about the time Lions was in. I just got anxious and started casting about 200 yards out from the ramp. Well, that's when the first fish came. And then the second fish came after that. So I ended up fishing a spot that I wasn't even planning on really fishing. It was in the area that I was going to fish, but I was just planning on blowing right past that and going about a mile and a half back. I had 5 fish limit within an hour, but 2 of the fish I couldn't submit because I'd lost reception. It literally within that 200 yards. So by the time I rolled back and got to the beginning, I was able to submit the other 2. I probably caught. The weather was a huge thing. I didn't know that until day 2, but the weather was a huge thing. I ended up catching probably between 30 and 40 fish on day 1. On day 2 was a lot tougher.
Probably because you caught 40 on day 1. They got smart on that. Like, this man ain't playing out here.
Yeah, no, I'm not good at managing fish. I'm just not. I want to catch them. And whatever I catch,
they're playing Pokemon. You're gonna catch them all.
Yeah, there's got to be bigger ones out there, right? So
man.
I was swinging for the fences on day 1. I wasn't managing fish at all.
That's all right.
Did you have a B spot? Did you have a place you were confident in as a B spot, or were you just like, well, here we go?
Yeah, my B spot was all the way up north at the Barkley Dam.
Okay.
Yeah.
Boy.
How long a drive would that have been if you had to bail?
You mean like during the day?
Like you'd have had to like bail out during the day to go somewhere else. Would that have taken an hour and a half? How long would that have taken?
Probably an hour and a half is my guess, I'd say.
Yeah, I would have been. From the ramp, if I was loaded up, I was looking at an hour and 10 minutes.
Oh yeah, brutal.
Boy.
Easy.
You get speeding tickets around there too. You got to be real careful. Driving
there's no way to speed. There's no reception for about 45 minutes. The roads are wrapped lines.
Yeah.
I don't know how the speed limits are posted at 50 miles an hour through some of those places.
It's wild. It's definitely. That's one of the challenges of Kentucky Lake is it's not access to the lake. There's a ton of ramps. A ton of ramps on Kentucky Lake, but it's cell phone reception and then navigating around Kentucky Lake because you have to take 5,000 little back roads to get from ramp to ramp. There's nothing that's really just a straight shot to get to.
Josh Evans says the police around there don't play. Is that true, right?
Judging from my speeding ticket, yes.
Yeah,
$220 worth says they don't play.
Oh, did you get one?
I got one in the Hobie Open, I don't know, 5 years ago. Me and Siddiqui got on that big school of fish. I was trying to get back to check-in, and I got pulled over, and it caused me to miss a check. Siddiqui passed me while I was pulled over by the cop. It's pretty funny.
Well, let's get into your day 2. You said it was tougher, and your day 2 total got you into 13th place. A lot of other guys made moves on day 2, including our housemate Abby made that run up to 3rd place. What changed there? You said the weather was key. So what do you think happened on day 2 to make it a tougher bite for you?
Well, on day 2, I mean, the area that I was in, I went out there. I mean, it was a sheet of glass. The water was just calm as could be at the start. Probably, I don't know, 2.5, 3 hours into it when the wind finally picked up, and then it got a little brutal out there, and that's when the bite picked up, and what I noticed, I mean, I had been sitting shallow, casting into, probably 7 to 8 feet of water. Well, if I sat in 4 to 6 feet of water and cast it out to 12 to 13 foot of water, that's where they're at. But again, it was pedaling down, casting, and just painfully slow fishing.
So I had a spot that I moved to on day 2. I couldn't fish it on day 1 because that wind was insane. It was offshore out in the middle of the lake. But when I found it pre-fishing, the wind was blowing out of the south. And I think it was blowing kind of up this long point that was coming out. When I went back to fish it on day 2, the wind's blowing northeast. And I think the difference in that wind direction is what had those fish pushed off of that hump. I think I found them on that south wind and they were positioned correctly. North wind, they were pushed off of it. Because I don't know if that affected your bite at all with that current difference. I think that's what either helped a lot of people on day 1 or, with Abby, in his case, that wind is what killed his bite on day 1. He couldn't sit on it. He couldn't stay in the area where the fish were on day 1 because it was so bad, with the waves and stuff. But day 2, he was actually able to get to it. So that's kind of one of the big adjustment factors, when you talk about Kentucky Lake, especially, or any of these large reservoirs, when you got a north wind at 10 to 20 miles an hour, it can really flip your game plan upside down.
Well, I forgot how crazy that lake. It reminded me a lot of when Toledo Bend got up because it runs north to south like that, big, long, wide open lake. Lord have mercy. 10-mile-an-hour wind feels like 30. Starts rolling
play out there.
Yeah, it starts rolling out there. We got some questions, 2 from John Allen. Jim, do you use electronics religiously or just here and there? And how important do you think they are?
No, quite honestly, I mean, my electronics, I mean, I don't have anything special. But I use it to mark waypoints. I use it to see how deep the water is. I use it to see what the water temperature is, and for navigation purposes. But I don't get into the side scan, the down scan, any of that stuff.
You're not scoping. You're not live scoping out there.
No.
All right. And then another more important question, Jim. LeBron or Jordan?
I'm going to go with Jordan.
Amen. I was going to end the show if you
champions choose Jordan.
John Allen, you heard it here. Straight out of Indiana, the home of basketball. Let's see.
Yeah, actually, Jackson just left this morning. That's why we had to get back here. We didn't roll in until about 4 o'clock this morning. Jackson left at 7 o'clock with his buddy Luke Goody, who plays for Illinois.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they're down in Florida going on a python hunting trip.
Very cool.
Did you say a python hunting trip?
Python hunting trip.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Give me
some
kids scam boots.
The things the kids do these days, right?
I know. That's wild. I hadn't done that yet. Way to go, Jax.
Rick Nakamp had a question, but he stopped his question midway. So
I know you put that up and it said as follows, and then nothing.
And then I'm like, where's the follows? I'm waiting for the follows. The story's so cool, Jim, because I'm a dad of boys, and raising boys is different, especially if you raise them doing stuff you like. And I came up playing a lot of basketball. My boys played basketball, and I never let my boys beat me at basketball until they could legit do it. I would make them cry in the driveway and all that kind of stuff. So was there a little bit of that part of the dad mode in you? Like, he's going to have to earn it to beat me. You weren't going to let him have it.
No, quite honestly, not really. This is his game. This is his dream. I mean, my dream for him. Um, but no, I was watching the leaderboard on day 2 and probably missed out on 50 or 60 casts just because I was trying to get reception, trying to see if he was calling up, because we're not allowed to talk on the water anymore. So my only way to see how he's doing is to check the leaderboard. And I was checking the leaderboard to see where he was at, not necessarily see where I was at.
Yeah, I guess it is pretty cool. Like if you're going to lose, you want to lose to your boy. You know what I mean? That's the only thing that could make it okay, I think, is to lose to your boy.
Yeah, no, I was really surprised at the end because I thought I was getting docked 2 inches, but I ended up getting docked 2.5 inches on that. Because the very first fish that I caught on day 2 was the fish, and I didn't know this until later, until I went back and rolled through my camera roll. But the very first fish I caught on day 2 was the fish that I caught on day 1. And I'm glad I didn't know that at the time, because I mean that's what hyped me up. I'm like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah, that was my biggest fish on my stringer day 2, and I was like, dang, it had to be that one.
Heartbreaker. Rick, come on, finish that question. I want to throw it up here.
What's your opinion on that, Jim? I mean,
which part?
I know we've had a post about it, like catching the same fish day 1 to day 2. Like I understand, obviously, you can't use the same fish twice in one day. But if you've released this fish is back out swimming in the wild, and you catch it again on the second day, should that count on your stringer or not, in your opinion?
I don't know. I mean, quite honestly, I struggled a little bit more with, well, why can't you pull it from day 1 instead of day 2? Because that would put me in a better. Yeah, I caught more fish on day 1. It wouldn't have hurt me at all, hardly.
Like if you got to choose which stringer it came from. I agree. I wholeheartedly agree with that, because I had like a 15 as my small fish instead of a 12 as my small fish. So I can
it's a good point, Jim.
Yeah, it is a great point.
Yeah, so I mean it made a difference of like 2.25 inches for me if it would have got pulled out of day 1 as opposed to day 2.
But I knew we talked about this on one podcast, and that's what it was. It was with All American. That's exactly what it was. I knew we had talked about this. They allow it in All American. You're catching the fish again, like no question, right? I mean, and I saw a comment, somebody could have caught it on day 1 and put it on a stringer. Well, shit, you could have caught 10 on Friday and put them all on a stringer. Like, there's no way you can't prevent everything. But if you're out there fishing and you catch the same fish twice that's already got a hole in its mouth, you should get an extra 2 inches.
I know bed fishing puts a little gray area in that. Like, if you catch one real quick, take a picture, put it back on the bed for the next day. I don't know about all that, but in these cases, it seems like you were just fishing and caught him again. He decided to bite.
Yeah, no, I had no idea whatsoever, that I caught the same fish twice. And, and when AJ called me and told me, the unfortunate news, he did tell me, he said, Jim, he said, we've had 2 judges look at it. We're both seeing things the same way. You're welcome to see it, and see if you see anything. And I just told him, I said, no, and I do. I have all the respect in the world for AJ McWhorter. And I just said, no, I'm not going to question it. I trust you. And it is what it is, and if those are the rules, those are the rules. They apply to all of us. So it's across the board. It sounds like it happened to Ryan too. Well, I guess I'd heard about it as well. I know it happened to a couple others, and I think it happened to 3 people that were in the top 16 that put them out of the top 16.
Yeah,
I think. I mean, I don't want to go on record saying that, but so I guess I am.
It was a 5-inch difference on my limit.
Yeah, you went from check to 28th, right? And then
went. Oh yeah,
brutal. You still got some good points though, Ryan.
Whatever.
Yeah, on day 2, I dropped from 80.5 inches to, I think, 77.75, maybe.
Oh yeah. Let's see.
Tough.
That'll put you back in 6th
80.2.
place.
Yeah, 80.25 to 77 3/4. Yeah, it was 2.5 inches.
It'd been a no doubter at that point.
And honestly, this kind of stuff, that's why I run a GoPro all the time. We talk about this stuff all the time because you never know what's going to happen on the water. But this is just another reason, even if you don't want to edit videos or be a YouTuber or whatever, just to have for stuff like this. If there ever is a question, you know, oh, you caught the same fish, you know, oh, was it on a stringer, blah, blah, blah. Like you have video evidence. Like, no,
yeah, you can give an 8-hour, not an edited. You can give them the whole SD card and say, look, just tell them what time you took a whiz during the deal. You don't want them to see that. Just make sure they skip that part. So,
but on day one, you know, I mean, on day one, I fished clean. In every fish I hooked, I got in the boat. Even if it wasn't a call, you know, I got them in the boat. But on day two, I had 5 bites there between lines in and probably 7:30 in the morning that I missed. You know, and one of them was probably around a 17 incher. It was a largemouth, but he came out of the water and he let loose and got off. And then there were 4 others that I had them hooked, but I never saw them. But they were definitely smallmouth.
Yeah, suckers are unforgiving.
What's your Ned rig setup? What rod do you throw? What Ned hooks do you throw? What's your favorite Ned rig bait? I think those are always good variables to hear from different people.
Yeah, no, I use the St. Croix rod Jaxton hooked me up with back when. I mean, quite honestly, I mean, I don't study this, nor do I know it. You know, I have to ask him all the time. I mean, he'll look at me and laugh sometimes when he sees when I'm throwing the crankbait on or whatever. He's like, Dad, you don't want to be throwing, you know, I'm throwing it on like some jig rod or whatever. But to me, I mean, it's a rod. I mean, it's got a reel on it, and I can hook a bait to it. So
it's all the same.
You know, it works. It works. But this medium heavy, fast, this, that, the other thing, whatever. No.
3 power. Yeah.
I'm learning from him, you know, but I've caught fish in very unconventional ways, I guess, you know, when it comes to the rod setups and whatnot. But as far as the bait, I was throwing a TRD tickler. I probably went through 40 to 50 of them.
Really?
Yeah. When I get hung up on rocks, I mean, I give it 3 jerks. I'd pull up on it. If I couldn't get it out, I'd cut the line and tie a new one on.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, single-handedly lead poisoning Kentucky.
Yeah, come on down here one spring and we'll get out and I'll show you the tricks to getting those Ned heads unhung. It'll save you.
Oh, I mean, Jackson showed me, but every time I get one unhung, the hook was gapped out. You know.
You just bend it back.
That's because you're throwing it on a flipping stick, Jim. You gotta ease up on it.
Probably.
That's that extra heavy flipping stick there.
I know my Ned rod setups. It's good. It's Jaxton approved.
I mean, obviously it worked out pretty well. It seems like it was enough to get the job done here.
Amen.
It was a blast. I had a blast on day one. I mean, day two, I got antsy. I got nervous. I think nerves got to me a little bit there the first couple hours, and I settled down a little bit.
So you've had some runs on day one before, and I was talking to Ryan, and he said, "Yeah, I talked to Jim. He's a little bit nervous about spitting the bit on day two. Is that true? You've had a little history in the past of making a day one a little bit of a push, and then not being able to close it out on day two?
Yeah, I mean,
mind a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a spotlight guy. You know, it happened to be on St. Clair. I mean, I had a heck of a day on day one on St. Clair and didn't seal the deal on day two. But yeah, I'm not a spotlight guy. You know, I go to these events. I mean, quite honestly, one of the reasons I signed up for Kentucky Lake is there's 109 people. I knew it was going to be a good point to that. You know, and my goal was to fish the TOC with Jaxton again. So that's what put me there.
Well. Yep. When I I said, proud of you, buddy. Finish it. He said my bite died, but the night before I said, "Nice job." He said, "Thanks. I'll find a way to screw it up tomorrow." That was Jim's exact quote. Oh,
Well, you didn't screw it up.
you
Jim.
didn't.
got it.
You didn't.
Oh man,
that was
Let's
I
awesome.
see.
didn't, but I was very surprised that 77 and what 3/4, whatever I had on day 2. I was very surprised that sealed the deal.
Hey, man.
It's such a tough fishery though. Like, and you saw those big swings. I thought mid 80s was probably about the top limit that you would see come out of a one day. Maybe somebody might fluke one and hit 90, but if you look at the big fish overall, that big largemouth class is gone. Like we didn't see any of those big 21, 22, 23-inch largemouth coming in like Kentucky Lake was known for, years
Yeah.
back. Like that's gone. Those largemouth, they're completely missing from showing up on the Tourney X leaderboard.
Yeah, it looked like a Pickwick tournament. We got smallmouth all over the place.
The smallmouth have seemed to sustain themselves. At least, the adult trophy class smallmouth have seemed to sustain a little bit better. And I don't know if it's kind of their forage patterns or whatever. Maybe if they're eating crawfish or whatnot, they're not, affected as much by whatever the Asian carp do in the water that we don't seem to know about. But I think that might be the explanation for it. I'm no biologist by any means.
Ryan, we got Rick's question. He finished his question. It's a 3-parter. You ready for this, Jim?
Okay.
I'm ready.
So Rick Nakamp over on YouTube, he said, Jim, part 1 of this, going into this tournament, how familiar were you with the lake? Are you local to Kentucky? What was your game plan going in? This planning process seems overwhelming.
Well, no, number one, Kentucky Lake is probably one of the lakes I'm most familiar with. That's where it all started. That's one of the first. That is the first traveling tournament that we went to outside of Indiana, and for oh my gosh, it wasn't called the Bass Open Series.
It was called the Hobie Bass Open.
Yeah, it was the Hobie Bass Open, and that's where I took Jaxton when he was 13. So, and I remember, I think I put 1,500 miles on my truck while I was at Kentucky Lake. And we were getting up we traveled with the guy, his name's Mike Denzel here in Fort Wayne at the time, and still is one of the Hobie regional guys. Stayed with him, and we were all over the place. We're staying at Kentucky Dam Village, but we're fishing down at in Big Sandy. And that's like a 2-hour drive.
Yeah.
But and that's where I always let, at least when I was chauffeuring Jaxton around, he always picked the spot. And I hate to fish docks, but if that's what he picks, okay, I'll figure something out there. So I feel like I know Kentucky Lake probably better than I probably have more waypoints and more experience on Kentucky Lake and all the creeks and stuff that are there than probably any lake in the country.
But that being said, though, Kentucky Lake, the fishery itself, has changed so much from those days. That was the glory days, up until about 4 years ago. That fishery is completely different now. With everything from where the fish are positioned to the bait, it's a completely different setup. You might, the ramps and some of the landmarks and features, but the way the fish are set up now is just it's crazy. It's completely completely different from how it used to be.
Yeah, and like this weekend was fortunate for me because one of the things I've never done is ledge fish. And I'll never forget. I think I can't remember if it was the first one, the second one, maybe the third one. And I didn't even know you all at that time. But, just as we were wrapping up the tournament and whatever, I see this video of Eric Siddiqui and Lambert out on the ledges after the tournament was over, and they were hammering the fish.
We probably caught 25 fish over 4 pounds out of that school. It was insane.
And that's one thing, I didn't know Siddiqui at the time, and he's become one of my best friends here over time. In fact, we were talking earlier. He's actually still down in Kentucky Lake right now. Probably on his way home right now, but earlier today he was on Kentucky Lake. But that's one of the things that I would like to learn is how to ledge fish. Here in Indiana, we're for the most part shallow water fishermen, but Jackson's taught me to look for some things offshore and whatnot over the years. So I don't know. It's ledge fishing is one of those things I'd like to take a swing at one of these days.
You need to come down to Chickamauga right now. Then that ledge bite's on fire right now. They're schooled up pretty
you just
heavy.
Pick them,
really?
you just pick them up with the zombie virus on them, don't you? You don't even have to catch them.
That's right. That's right. Pickwick's a really good ledge fishing lake too. It's kind of taken the place of Kentucky Lake, what it used to be. But I did hear some big fish being caught on the ledges during this tournament. Not many, and there weren't many schools. I think Ewing found a school, and then Jeff's partner in Arkansas. He was at my ramp, and he actually went out and caught. I think he said he caught his big fish, 19 something, on a ledge.
He posted a Facebook post, kind of breaking it all down. Day one ledges and brush piles, and then he flipped docks for some coals. So
yeah, he said he scoped it out there.
Yeah, this kind of answers. You kind of already answered this question. Denzel on Facebook said, "Are you a shallow water fisherman or offshore?" He said you're not really down with fishing ledges. Do you fish offshore much otherwise, like brush piles or anything? Or are you more of a shallow water guy?
More of a shallow water guy, I guess. Yeah, more of a shallow water guy. I like to fish a lot of breaks, and that's all I use my graph for is finding those breaks.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of map study before, marking all the ramps, kind of checking out the contours. Google Earth is always a huge component, I guess. Just kind of checking things out at the different times of the years whenever they took the photos. And every now and again you can run across photos of, when especially the reservoir lakes are low, you can kind of see what the features are underneath.
Let's see. We've got another question on Facebook. Elvis Lee, this is really a poignant question for tonight because talking about you and Jackson. Elvis says, Jim, my 10-year-old son wants to travel and compete with me on the road when he's older. What did you do with Jackson to get him acclimated to that travel life? And what was the process like for game planning to be successful on the water when on the road? And I would add to that, with a younger kid, like you said, Jackson 13, Elvis kid's 10. How did you navigate that?
I didn't have to navigate it. I just had to drive while he slept.
You just drove. That's it. Drove and paid for everything. That's about it, right?
Yeah. Jackson's been engaged, in fishing. Remember when they did the Pond Warrior? When David Cruz did the Pond Warrior?
Never.
If you looked at an aerial map of where we live right now, we've probably got, and most of them are private ponds or subdivision ponds, whatever you want to call them. We've got ponds everywhere. Well, Jackson's been fishing since he was 3.5, 4 years old. We've got 3 ponds right here in our neighborhood, and he was catching 4 or 5 pound catfish. 30 inches long when he was 4 years old. So he used to wait for me. We had this red wagon, and I wish I could send you guys pictures, but then I got him a 3-wheel bicycle, like one of those grandma bicycles that had a big basket on the back. Put a license plate, hung some fishing lures from it, and it was always full. And he would drive that thing through the neighborhood and go to different ponds and whatever, and get kicked out of some ponds, just by some of the grumpier elderly folk. But no, he's always loved fishing. It's one of those things that he was born with, and I'm grateful for that because it's something that I always loved growing up, but I just never pursued it. And he's taken it to a whole different level. And I said this last night, seems like so long ago now, but Jackson's we raise our kids, but in the fishing world, I mean, Jackson still comes to me for worldly advice and stuff like that. Um, but he doesn't really need that much anymore. Um, he's pretty independent, to be honest. He's got a good head on his shoulders, but when it comes to fishing, he's become my coach. I mean, he teaches me so much, I mean, and what he's learned along the way. And he's definitely made me a better fisherman.
That's unreal. That's awesome.
So I don't know if that answers the question, but
Yeah.
keeping it fun, keeping it real, and maybe going outside the boundaries every now and again, I mean, just let them know that, there's more to life than chasing a paycheck.
Yeah.
That's the
Amen.
truth. And maybe one day, Elvis, your son will get good and teach you how to fish better. That's the moral of the story.
Yeah, just let him sleep, drive, and then
let him sleep, drive, and then you can be a Hobie champion.
Yeah, get on the grind. No, that's really cool. Jim, I wanted to ask you. Go ahead, sir.
No, I was just going to say. I mean, I don't care whether it's ballet, whether it's fishing, whatever. But passions bring people together. And you look at the circle of people that we cross paths with in the world of fishing, the camaraderies, the friendships, the family, the atmosphere that we have, the meetups that you all do, and going to Ralph's and seeing everybody there and having some laughs and with everything that was going on that night. You can't beat that. It's special.
We were talking about that. I think that's one of the things that COVID really took away from what the tournaments used to be, because used to, I mean, you were always around each other, spending time, at least in the same area. Now it's like everybody just kind of, all right, got my board checked. I'm going to go sit in my own house and not do anything or talk to anybody else while I'm here. Like, I miss that kind of the more social atmosphere, right? Where everybody is. Like, if we would try to plan something like that at every event, hey, everybody go here for dinner or whatever. I think that, I was talking to John that was staying in our house. He's like, yeah, it's cool that y'all try to do a meetup or something at each one of these, because when I was traveling, when he started out, he's like, I didn't know anybody. I was going to these tournaments by myself, camping in a tent, no contact with anybody. He's like, just the opportunity to be able to go, show up and make a friend or something like that's part of the game, just as much as catching fish or chasing a check or whatever, like it's getting to know each other. And I mean, you've seen it, Jim, like the relationships you build and the connections that you make, being able to help each other with life, not just fishing, but your whole life.
Amen. Ryan,
yeah, no, and I'll speak to that too. I mean, and I don't know if this is what you're referring to or not, Ryan, but some of the medical issues that Jackson's been facing, with Ryan doing what he does for a living, I mean, he knew people, that he was willing to reach out to and get second opinions and third opinions and to help, and I remember 6 years ago, whatever it was, when we started doing this, you all were just, and I didn't grow up in the social media world, but I don't know if it's fortunately or unfortunately, but our kids are, and you all were icons, for Jackson. He would always talk about this and show me this, that, and the other thing, and lo and behold, next thing you know, we're sitting at Kentucky Lake in a meeting with all these people, afraid to talk to them all, and here we are 6 years later, friends with everybody, it's pretty amazing the way things work out, and how sometimes, our fears of approaching people or not being accepted or whatever, we're all just people, and it's definitely a special group, and one that I feel very fortunate for Jackson and myself to have found. And one thing that I know, I mean, I had a stroke here 3 years ago, and I had talked to several people after that. I had so many people reached out after that, and I know for a fact that Jackson's in good hands if something does happen to me.
Ain't nothing happened to you, Jim. You
Yeah,
you've
Ron,
done
No,
such a
Simon,
good
no,
job
I'm
with
not trying to be
him. Like,
morbid, but
nah,
it's one of those things that every dad wants to feel.
you've
you
done
don't
such
want
a good job raising him. When I had him down here for that Hobie shoot, like Jack, I mean, he's what every parent would want their child to grow up to be. Smart, level-headed, responsible. Cares about what he does. Like, it's just a joy to be around. You've done a great job.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're gonna leave him in the hands of crazy Uncle Lambert. I don't know if you want to do that or not.
Well, I'll take care of him now. He may have to drive me around, but I'll take care of him.
Yeah, Ryan, you're talking about the lack of social interaction and meetups. I've got one way to solve it all. We can fix it. Steve
What
Fields
is
is in the comments. Shotgun starts. We're all back together.
All
Start
right,
at Barkley Dam and head down south is what you do.
Can
That's
we
it.
have motors? Can we have motors, Steve?
He'd be okay with that if we go shotgun starts, I think.
I'd trade that. Motors in the shotgun start. I'm down.
Yeah. The slowest shotgun start in history. It'd be awesome. People saying, yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's funny. Yeah.
All right, we did it. Congrats, guys. We just changed the face of kayak fishing tonight.
Yeah. Edie Wilkinson just made a point. After 5 days of being alone, 95% of the time, it wears on you a hit when you're away from your family. So if you are just kind of going to these tournaments and isolating yourself away from family and stuff, I guess that can, it can make the stress of tournament travel even worse.
Yep. Reach out, make a friend.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Edie. She's an Indiana girl.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Indiana girl. Mm-hmm. Jim, I don't know if you know this, but I'm an original Midwestern guy myself. I'm from Ohio, just next door there.
I did not know that.
Yeah, Buckeye, born and raised. I've been in Arkansas long enough now to be from here too, but I was born and raised in Dayton, just across the line there.
Okay.
He's switching it up.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, I appreciate you coming on tonight, man. It's awesome you sharing the story of, you and Jaxton, and we've heard from Jaxton, obviously, from his perspective. He's been on numerous times, but, watching you win this thing was huge. Like, I loved it. I absolutely, after day one, I was like, man, Jim's gonna win this thing. Like, I felt like you were gonna do it. I'm so glad it happened. Congratulations. It's great.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Awesome show. Everybody in the comments saying, what a great story. What a great show. So thanks for sharing that with us, Jim, and congrats to you and your boy. All of us boy dads out here, proud to see what happened. It was cool. It's fun to watch.
I hope I get to see y'all at the TOC. Let me see what else I can screw up this season.
Yeah.
You Jim, can do it.
Oh, I know I can do that part. Don't worry.
Yeah. All right, sir. Get some rest, my man. Congrats again.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right. See you, buddy.
There he is. Jim Orr, everybody. That was amazing.
Yep.
Amazing stories.
Indeed.
All right, Ryan.
All right.
What a show. It's giveaway time. I got to get this thing pulled up. People already jumped the gun and started saying hashtag Revo. Like, I'm going to use that as the. Should I use that since I already did it? Or should I do something else?
I don't know. What do you want to do?
Okay. Hashtag Ryan's DQ'd.
No.
Duke fish.
Not again. No.
Duke fish. We'll go with Revo. It's fair enough.
Do it. We've already got people already halfway down the road on it now. So
yeah. All right, there you go, guys. Hashtag Revo in the comments to have a shot at winning. We'll do the drawing here in just a minute.
I was going to say like 4 doors, more oars or something.
That's too many letters, man.
All right. Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah. Throw them in there. We got 75, 76 people on live. Only about half of that in the contest right now. So I'll give it just a few seconds or so. What was your favorite part of the stories we heard tonight? I think it's so cool seeing a dad, and father-son combo come in 1-2 like that. I mean, so many things you could say about it.
I think it's that Jim accidentally beat Jaxton. I don't think Jim wanted to do that at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can tell, like he he almost. I think Jim almost feels bad about beating Jaxton, which is awesome. But I love seeing somebody that is like hardworking and does so much. Like obviously, like he's done so much to get Jaxton this involved in the sport, and for him to just win it so humbly, like that's my favorite part.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Although I would differ from if Justin was in this tournament with me and I beat him, I would be very happy that I beat him.
So they were Mackenzie. They're doing like a parents versus players practice. And it was supposed to be Wednesday, so I like made sure my Wednesday was clear. Well, they moved it to next Wednesday, and she's like, "Dad, are you gonna take it easy on us?" I was like, "No." I said, "Y'all better wear face masks to that one, girl."
Yeah, and shout out to the child beating the parent flipped around. My fellow Arkansan, Krista Hibbs, came in, cashed her first national check, and beat her mom. She finished in front of her mom in the tournament. So kid got the revenge. So we switched it up there. So well done, Krista. All right. I think we got enough entries. Let's do this thing.
Dun dun dun.
I saw Bob Baylor's name.
Yeah.
James Snyder. There we go, James. You're the winner of the Revos. Congratulations. Well done, sir. So, James, reach out. I'll get you the code tonight. There we go. What a good show, Ryan.
I am. Did you see the Ike Live show shared Jaxton Jim's success
really?
in the Hobie Trail? Yeah.
They going to get an invite?
I don't know. I have no idea. They've actually changed the whole format of the Ike Live show. It's no longer just the big kind of circus that they had in the studio there. I think it was just Ike doing solo this last one, but we'll see how that shakes out.
We got a big show coming next week, I think, Ryan. Do we want to drop any hints about that, or are we just going to wait till we put the announcement out?
Pete tried to call earlier. I called him back and he didn't answer. We're going to have a guest on from Bass University next week.
The dean?
Hopefully. The dean. Hopefully, Pete. I assume it's going to be Pete. That's my guess. But we're going to talk about some things. Talk about some cool things. We've had some, some hints dropped and some things in the works, and something that I've been involved with and pushing as hard as I can for the last couple years. We're finally getting some fruit on the tree. So we will bust that open next week and let you all in on the secrets. But this week, thank you all for tuning in. I don't think do we have anything else we need to touch on? I think we covered all the high points.
Nah, that's it, man.
Nah. We're
good. Time to get some sleep. Go Nuggets.
That's right. Shut them out.